Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Another Johnny Torch live broadcast. Broadcast number 215. Boy, has time flown, flew. One of the three. We're here today on this lovely Sunday afternoon where we're going to bring to you the gift of Bullets Bourbon once again. I can't really call this a launch, I suppose, because that term is kind of used for crowdfunders and the like. But Bullets Bourbon number 9, lucky number 9, has finally been printed, and I have several copies. I would like to wait until, Indie Planet lists it, which would make it easier for everybody else to buy. But as it stands right now, it's not listed right now. But I do have some copies, and I can sell them to you if you will. This is a little bit difficult. It's a little bit difficult. I've made it difficult for myself, but I'm over anxious. That's my my normal mode. And if you want a copy of Bullets Bourbon number 9, I can make that happen for you. You could check my website and email me there. You can DM me on Twitter. You could leave a comment here and let me know how I can get in touch with you. Any way you can do it, just do it so that you can get yourself a copy of Bullets Bourbon number 9. We're going to talk about that this afternoon. And I hinted on Twitter that I might open the show up and let callers in. So, if we get some viewers, maybe it'll happen. I don't really put too much stock in it. I don't get too many live actual views. I get a couple of views after the fact. But if you got something to promote, if you got a comic you want to talk about, or just ask questions about the series, we'll see if we can make that happen. First of all, though, let's talk about The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon number 9 in the final hours. This is the final issue in the Family Jewels arc. Now, a lot of people, I think, when they do a comic series these days, indie comics, they treat them as sort of mini-series. I don't make any pretense that this is a mini-series. This is an ongoing series that is always going to run as long as I have the strength and financial capabilities to keep it going. But this is like a 3-issue arc, and that's usually what my stories run, 3 issues. It varies sometimes. But you can get the full 3 issues now in this arc. Issues of The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye number 7, 8, and 9 will be the issues in this arc. We'll talk a little bit about this arc. Now, part of the problem is I wanted to make a video, a commercial, so to speak. I never have the time to do it because I jump from one issue to the next. We're already working on Bullets Bourbon number 10, and I'll drop a few tidbits about that before the show is over. But the difficulty in showing some of the pages, I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and just put them up a page at a time. So, again, bear with me. First of all, of course, we got the cover. This is a beautiful cover. A lot of work went into doing the snowfall, which I think is very sort of apropos of the story. And let's see. First, let's start with the first issue in this arc, which is the Family Jewels. And you want to start off with this one. And again, this is a very involved story. This is a detailed story. So that's why if I'm, I can't just sort of let this out in a 3-minute promotional video or even, or a 30-second ad. The storyline for this is, if you've been paying attention to the series at large, as it's been going on, Carrot Top is the main villain for Bullets Bourbon. And after his failure upon failure, he returns to his father, Parsnip Top, who is the dawn of a very powerful crime family. And he's the head of the 5 families, the Stark City 5 families of crime. We meet 2 of them in this story. The Vegetable Garden Gang, which Carrot Top's father is the dawn of, and Adam Apple, which you see on the right there, is the godfather of his own family in the Stark City crime families. And there's been hostilities between the 2 for ages past. At this point, a priceless statuette, we call it the 10,000 carat carrot, has been loaned to the Stark City Museum. And this is the object of desire of Parsnip Top. He's always wanted this as part of his collection. And at this same time, Carrot Top is going back to his father for some advice, some aid, because, of course, Carrot Top wants to take over the world. Nothing short of world domination will satisfy him. His father thinks he's crazy because he just wants him to be his lieutenant. And Carrot Top tries to prove himself to his father by stealing this statue for him. Now, during all this, let's, again, I'll try to keep the images moving here. It's kind of difficult to keep doing this in between, but I want to show you some of the art in these issues. All right, during all this, while Carrot Top is trying to mastermind the theft of the statuette, we introduce Veronica Sinclair, who we've name dropped her throughout the series from the first issue on, actually. This was a very long build-up to introducing her, and she's going to be an important character in this story arc. She is Carrot Top's femme fatale, shall we say. And Carrot Top's whole modus operandi is he wants to build himself an empire with only the best minds, only the best fighters, and he wants to take over the world. And of course, he wants Bullets Bourbon on his side. That's what his main goal is in regards to Bullets. He doesn't want him to be an adversary. But Bullets, of course, being the stalwart hero that he is not going to join Carrot Top. So Veronica is brought into this scenario, and she convinces Carrot Top that she will be able to turn Bullets to the dark side. Now, during all this, Bullets Bourbon has been acting not quite like himself. He's sort of going through a spiritual crisis in this episode, and this is why this is a lot of fun to write this story, because when you're doing an ongoing series, it's kind of difficult to keep giving the hero a character arc. But in this case, this is kind of the only time where he really wrestles with what is he doing. And he says at one point, no sane man does this to himself. He's running himself ragged, trying to, solve every crime problem in Stark City. Why? What does he get out of it? And he has to wrestle with the fact that, is it being selfish if you want, quote unquote, a normal life? Of course, he's the life of a crime fighter. And, it's something that, it's a trope. I love tropes in comics and so forth. And that's sort of a trope that's always gone on. The superhero that kind of wants to hang it up. He kind of wants to go off and live happily ever after with, whoever his leading lady happens to be it Lois Lane or Mary Jane or whoever it is. And in this case, we're following up the story When the Night Comes, where he had a failed attempted romance, actually, with Desiree Miller. And he kind of is, in a bad place right now, where he doesn't really want the life of a hero anymore. He doesn't want to be putting his life on the line, and he feels that he's getting nothing out of it. No personal gratification. And this is sort of his journey in the story, is to rediscover what it was that made him a crime fighter, made him an action hero. And of course, I hasten to mention that some of these images like this one here, this is not completed artwork. When you get the book, you're not going to see it look like this page, because this image was not finished when I took the screenshot. So it's going to look a lot better. But again, so Veronica is coming into the story where Bullets is at a vulnerable point in his life, and she tries to sway him to the dark side. And this is straining his relationship with Joe and Chubby, who are his police department compatriots from a young age. And at a certain point, he sort of has a fight with them, sort of an argument with them, and he decides to go off and try to do it Veronica's way and try to infiltrate the underworld as sort of a bad guy. He sort of is, he's not quite there, but he's acting a little more violent. He's acting a little more impulsive. He's being reckless, and this is not really the way he is, to an extent, of course. I think when you're going to jump on cars and get into gunfights with people and shoot at people, you probably are kind of reckless. But you know what I'm trying to say. So as this adventure continues on, we have to wonder and be concerned for Bullets that maybe he is going to turn to the dark side. Now, the other aspect of this is Bullets, he wants to retire after this. So one way or another, this could be the end. This could be the final episode in the series. That's what we've tried to play up anyway. All right, so now we move on to this is issue number 8. So we're on this one now. This one's already, available on Indie Planet, and you can get this one from my website as well. Temptation Eyes, and Bullets goes to the Fruit Salad Mob's speakeasy to try to coax some information out of some of the patrons there. I don't want to give too much away, even though the story's been out for a while. This issue's been out for a while. But there is a trader in the ranks of the Vegetable Garden gang who's trying to play both sides of the conflict for himself. And, it's it's sort of the mystery of the episode, so to speak. And then finally, we get to the issue we're on now. This is in the final hours. This is what we have. We didn't have the heart to call it the death of Bullets Bourbon, but we're calling it in the final hours, where Carrot Top and Bullets have their final confrontation, one-on-one, on a snowy rooftop. And again, this isn't finished art. This is not the way it's going to look in the book. This is just, I try to take some screenshots from when I'm working on the book, but there's going to be actual snowfall, and some of the images are a little bit cleaner looking. Let's see. So, yeah, this looks pretty conclusive that this might be the end for Bullets Bourbon. He gets shot point blank by Carrot Top. And of course, the whole mystery over Veronica. Was she successful in turning him to the dark side? Was he successful in trying to lure her to the light side? All that is revealed in this issue 9, in the final hours. And Bullets, of course, this is actual completed artwork, though, this image from the story. So this is now out there and available for purchase. I've got a few more. Let's just keep the cover up. But that's about all that I can reveal. There's a lot of, usually I try to put a couple of pages up on my website. I don't really want to spoil the surprise on this one. So we still have pages up from the first issue in the series, the Family Jewels. We don't have the subsequent 2 issues, because I want to keep that as a surprise. I want to keep that fresh and get people excited about it and have the twists and turns actually be real for them. I mean, maybe some of these images might betray a little, but if you haven't read the story yet, I think you're still going to get a lot of excitement out of it. And again, we have a 10th issue coming up, so it's probably not a secret to say that Bullet survives this encounter. How does he do it? That you'll have to learn. But some of the little tidbits I've revealed about issue 10 that we're currently working on now. It contains a favorite villain of mine. We haven't announced who the villain is yet, and we're probably not going to announce it until probably when the cover comes out. When I finish the cover, I'm not working on the cover really yet. I'm still working on the interior pages. Once I get around to the cover, I'll probably reveal it, and then you'll know. The revelation actually comes in the coming attractions page in Bullets Bourbon Casebook 9. So if you get this issue, you'll find out who the villain's going to be in issue 10, and you'll also get a glimpse of who the main villain is going to be for season 2, because issue 10 begins our final 3-issue story arc in season 1. What we're considering season 1 is going to end with the next story arc. Then we've got season 2 coming up, and we're going to have a lot more different villains. I think most of the villains in season 1, we relied a lot on Carrot Top. We relied a lot on Pencil Neck. We're going to, and every issue, I always try to add another villain. I mean, like when we did the Carrot Top Pencil Neck team up, I created Sour Note as sort of a new villain. And of course, in this one, we're bringing Carrot Top back, and there's a whole slew. There's like 2 full crime families of new villains. But we're going to do, we're going to focus on a couple of new villains in season 2. There'll be some favorites. We'll still have some of the old villains show up from time to time. But we want to get some newer villains in the second season. Issue 10 is going to, I think I've said this before on one of the live streams, but we're going to focus a little bit more on Harrison Ford. The 2 of Stark City's best, and Dr. Frank Stewart is also going to have a bit of a larger role. We're going to get him out of the lab, and he's actually going to have some field work. So some of the peripheral characters, some of the ones that don't get a lot of screen time, they're going to be in it a lot more in the overall final season 1 arc. So that'll be interesting to look forward to and check out. We've got a lot of cameos coming up in issue 10 too, seeing as it's the last, storyline in season 1. So you're going to see a lot of characters, both that we've already seen in a cameo, and some new characters that we're going to see going forward that, we're introducing here or get a cameo here, and we're going to see them more in the future. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. We've got one major character who's going to be pretty important throughout, and he's going to be introduced in the first issue of this final season 1 story arc in issue 10. He's going to be really interesting. I, don't want to leave any hints really about it. It's a guy, I guess, because I keep saying him. But apart from that, you don't know what his function's going to be. But he's going to be fun and add something to the story. I think the other thing that I mentioned on Twitter is this is going to be a detective story for the most part for Bullets Bourbon, because most of the other storylines, I basically just made him an action hero. I think in the first issue, we get some hints of, he can tell you the different types of tobacco, and, he's smart like that, but we don't really see him do too much of that stuff. So we got to issue 10. I said, we're going to really make this one a detective story. And the problem with that is, because a lot of people are like, well, Batman's the world's greatest detective. We got to see him doing detective things. When you try to write that, though, that's actually kind of boring, because then you have a guy, just with a magnifying glass picking up ashes and testing them. And, the trick is to do this and make it entertaining. So there really isn't. A lot of the action is kind of saved for the end of this story arc, because a lot of the beginning of the story is him trying to find out what's going down. Again, I don't want to really spoil the story yet, so I'm going to be kind of vague about that. But he's basically proceeding through the first half of the story trying to solve the mystery. And then when he kind of gets the idea and figures it out, then we have more of the action and adventure part of the story kicks in after the second half. All right, so that's going to be Bullets Bourbon 10. That's really exciting, and we're looking forward to that. We also have something else I wanted to hype up here is the Johnny Torch 2022 New England tour. I don't know if I want to say Comic-Con tour, because I've only got one convention appearance lined up, and we're calling it the Johnny Torch, I'll Be Back tour, as in the Terminator, as in Arnold. And the reason why I picked that, because that's the fun part of every campaign season, every convention season, I should say, is being able to, like, I try to, get some kind of movie quote or something, and that's sort of the title, the tagline for this year. This year is I'll Be Back. And the reason why I chose that is because I honestly don't know where I'm going to be this year. I have one convention confirmation, which I am 99% sure I'll be there. And that is Keith Gleason's Plastic City Comic Con. I've never been there before. I believe it's July 16th, if I am correct. I haven't checked it up. I did see Peter Simeti's actually launching his campaign today, and I seen the end of his stream where he was talking about the Plastic City Comic Con. So looking forward to seeing Pete again and Keith, and meeting some new friends there. Hopefully you'll be there if you can make it. I hope that there's not going to be any restrictions, and the thing comes back and you have to have this, that, and the other to get in. If that's the case, I won't be there, but I have a feeling that if there's going to be that kind of a tight regulation on the convention this year, I think Keith will probably pull it back again for another year. But again, this is just subject to, we'll have to wait and see. So keep an eye on my website, keep an eye on Twitter, and I'll try to keep you abreast of these things. But I'm pretty sure I'll be making it to Plastic City Comic Con. That's in Fitchburg, Mass, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it because I haven't hit a convention in 2 years. And that is very disappointing because I love the convention circuit. I love getting out there and pressing the flesh, as it were, and meeting all the fine people. And it's more fun when you have someone to interact with. That's kind of why I suggested maybe we'd open up the show to some guests. Now that I'm pretty much done with the spiel and the I'm only going to be on for like 10 more minutes. I'll put the link in the chat. I don't know if this works. I've never done this before. I've never tried to let anybody on the show, but now that the spiel's over, I can actually look at the chat and see if anybody comes in. I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll see how it works for about the next 10 minutes or so. I'll continue on by talking about something else we got in the works. I was speaking of Peter Simeti a moment ago, and I've been unable to get on the open mic show that he does because every time he does it, I'm like not available, and then every time I am available on a Monday, he's he's not doing it. So I don't know. I might try to get on now that he's doing the show on Wednesday. That's a possibility. It might make our schedules line up a little bit better. So I might try to do that. It's difficult though because I'm more free form. I can't keep things down to 3 minutes and 5 minutes, and trying to discuss these things makes it, I want to make sure I cross the T's and dot the I's and not just sort of try to do an information dump. I kind of like want to be able to have my time to go through these things. That's why these kind of shows are difficult for me to some extent. Because I've only done it once before when I was on one of his shows. I think it was the longest one he ever did, and I managed to get in at the very end. So if you ever want to seek that one out, you can find it. But again, it's you try to be entertaining in as much as you want to get your points out. That's what's difficult about it. You've got 3 minutes. I think in that case I had 5 minutes. My screen wasn't working. I couldn't share the screen. I did like a little bit of info about the book. Then, like I said, it's a very intricate story, so it was difficult to sort of hit the salient points. And then I kind of like ad-libbed the other, 3.5 minutes. So it's something that's like an acquired taste. You have to be like particularly good at it. And, I don't know. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I just got to practice a little bit more. Get those points out quicker. But speaking of alternative, this is the reason why I bring it up, is also we're going to have an ad in Mighty Mascots number 6 for the entire Bullets Bourbon saga. I got in on the winter campaign that Peter did. Now that he's doing a spring campaign, I've already got another ad ready to go for the spring campaign. I might have a couple of ads to go for that. We're going to try to push the book a little more than we've been doing. I want to see if I can get some ads out there. If you're interested in, getting an ad, of Bullets Bourbon, let me know, and we'll see if we can do something about it. If you got a publication or something where it'll work, that would be nice. So hopefully we'll get that in the works in the near future too. I know, like I said, I saw the end of the show, and I think he's up to 4,000 now on his campaign, on the spring campaign, and I think he's got to reach 10,000 before the ads perk kicks in or whatever. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll see if we can get another ad out. And again, I want to get some new eyes on the project. Want to see if we can get some people, because as I said, I don't do Indiegogos or anything, because I've done two and they've been pretty unsuccessful. It may not just be for me, unless of course you can facilitate that amount of fans and backers and what have you. It's not worth it to try to do. As a Pepsi break. I've been talking for about a half hour straight. I need a Pepsi break. All right. But as I was saying, you kind of have to build the brand and the public consciousness before you can do an Indiegogo, I think. And I don't know if I'm there yet with enough potential backers. I have a lot of fun though on Twitter, and there's a lot of camaraderie in the indie comics scene. Of course, there's unfortunately some, less than harmonious players that don't quite get along. But I try to get along with everyone. It's not an us versus them mentality with me. Also, we've got, this is an interesting project. I'm just looking over at my desk and I can see the project that I've got made for this. This is another thing that's very exciting. We're going to do a very limited number that I'm going to do the 3 issues and put them together in one package with it's a very exciting, extra, so to speak. I don't know how to say it without giving it away, but I'm going to be working on that too in the near future, and hopefully we'll have it ready for the Plastic City date. And again, talking about my appearances, there's a good chance I'll probably do a few flea market appearances again. I think that's very likely. They were not as successful last year as they were the year before, but you got to get out there and show your stuff, and hopefully things work out. So that's probably about it. But again, check out the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. You can, as I said, on the website, not only do you have the listings on Indie Planet, you also have, let me see, I think it'd be easier if I just bring this up and see if I can. All right, let me share it. Let's see. Here we go. I think this is the way to do it. Let's see. Yeah, this doesn't particularly work. Nah, that's not going to work. All right, well, if you go to my website, you can find the tab that says, I can't just show you, unfortunately, but let's see. Depending on what device you use, it's all the way on the right hand of the top of the screen that says Contact Johnny Torch. If you are interested in buying the latest issue in the final hours, you can find my email there. It's like it's sort of like a built-in segment of the page, and you can email me from there, and we'll work out how to get the book to you. Again, of course, like I said, you can DM me, although I honestly don't check my DMs too often on Twitter, but if it pops up in my notifications, I might check it out. Just any way you can, we'll see if we can get the book to you. And I've done some price lowering as well, I guess I should mention. I was selling all the individual issues for $5. Now we've lowered it to $4. That's about as low as I'm probably going to go with these issues, because it cost me about $2.50 to make an individual issue. And at $4, I'm barely making $1.50. Now remember, I do this whole project by myself. I do the art, I do the ink, I do the story, of course, I do the lettering, I do the coloring, essentially everything. The only thing I don't do is I don't make the PDF file. I don't I don't know how to do that, so I just hand that off to somebody else who knows how to do it, and pay them, of course. But essentially, this is like, I can keep the costs low because I don't have to pay anybody else. But I still think, I kind of deserve at least $1 for doing all this. And if I have to lower this anymore and make it less than $1, it's going to be a sad it's going to be a sad state of affairs. But again, $4 is very competitive with this day and age. I think you should be able to pay $4 for a book if you're doing that anywhere else. I mean, I would love to have done the newsprint, but unfortunately, I couldn't make the kind of commitment of, I work off better with print on demand. I can't just get 1,000 copies, get 500 copies, spend $500. It's easier for me to just print up 20 books, 25 books. You got them on hand. You could take them to a convention. You could take them to a flea market. If somebody writes in, wants an autographed copy, I can send it out to you. It's a lot easier that way than trying to find room for stacks and stacks of copies that you can't sell. So again, that's why I'm going to have to use print on demand and not newsprint, because I would love to keep the cost down even lower than this, but unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen. All right, so once again, let me just briefly, let's talk about the series itself. The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye. This is the elevator pitch. I probably should have led with this, right? This is kind of how you do it. The elevator pitch, like within 10 seconds, this is what the whole thing is. A down-on-his-luck private eye takes on the most colorful collection of villains imaginable in each and every action-packed issue. So Bullets, for the sake of Stark City, his residence, his home base, as it were, he takes on all these crazy-looking villains. It's a lot of fun. It's all ages. I feel very strongly that these things should be all ages, because that's how you keep the genre growing, is you introduce it to the younger generation. That's how we were all introduced to comics. We were all introduced to comics as kids for the most part. And I think that's why it irritates me when you see things like Batman and these, like Daredevil, these movies and TV shows where they purposefully are distancing themselves from the juvenile audience, the child audience. Batman and the Joker were created to be children's entertainment. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Now, there's a way of doing that and not making it dumbed down, not making it too juvenile. But you have to do it in such a way where you are not excluding the youngest members of society, because they're the ones that are going to have the passion to buy the toys and the t-shirts and this and that. They're the ones that are going to carry it over into adulthood the way we did, and of course pass it off to their next generation. And you don't do that when you exclude them and you say, oh, you can't see this is too intense for you. And this, I don't believe in that. I believe if you need to have gore and nudity and swearing and vulgarity, then you're not a very good storyteller, because you're falling back on things that are just there for shock value, and it's not there to facilitate the story. Now, there's, you can massage that a little bit in different ways. You can kind of, go a little bit more in one direction or another, but the fact is you still have to stay within that all ages parameter. You could be a PG-13, in other words, and kind of push the limits, but you can't exclude. You can't just tell kids this is not for you. and expect to be a successful comic book or have your characters be successful. It's not fun. And that's why I do comics. I do comics for fun. Comics should be escapism. You should be able to lose yourself in a comic. I've said this all the time from the beginning. Lose yourself in a comic for a half hour or however long it takes. Don't think about your troubles for a half hour. How much is that worth to you? A good story. Just give me a good story, good characters with fun interactions, and give me some action. Give me some, a little romance, some humor, brighten my day. I don't necessarily always want to be dragged down by something depressing and dark and grim. That's what I want, and I think that's what most people want, and that's what I've tried to get to people with The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon. Also, like I've said before, it's basically my love letter to 80s action heroes, because like I said, I grew up in the greatest time for television, which was the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, I was watching reruns of late 70s stuff as a kid, and in the 80s we had Knight Rider and A-Team and this and that, and 70s had Battlestar Galactica and The Incredible Hulk. All these shows, basically made their impact on me. And you could see it, I think, in the writing. And I kind of married that style of 80s action hero with the vibrancy and the color of comics, superhero comics, American comics, I think, as they used to be referred. And when you put those two things together, it's a lot of fun because you're seeing, like I said, I'm fond of those kind of tropes. I mean, we all seen them. I guess if you're a certain age and watch those shows, we all seen them play out, but they never felt stale. They never felt tired. It was always the good guy was going to win at the end. You kind of knew it was going to happen. There was never this kind of dark gloom over everything. There was never this, inappropriate situations that sort of dominated the stories. There was never this, like, we have to check boxes and make sure that everybody is represented and that there is a, there's going to be a gay relationship and there's going to be this and that. This doesn't have any wokeness in it at all. This is not going to please you if you're an SJW, because we don't check off boxes. And again, diversity is not a bad thing. But if you're trying to check off boxes and you're making your cast look like the Starship Enterprise, it's difficult. You have to focus on your lead characters and not worry about, well, we don't really have a role for this ethnicity, but we've got to put them in there to show that, we're in solidarity with them. You know what I mean? We can't just forget them and exclude them. So let's create a character for them that really is inconsequential, and it becomes a mess that way. You can see a lot of TV shows have done that. They kind of have characters that they don't even need, and they just keep cycling them around. Like, what are they going to do with them? Well, they're kind of there to represent some kind of, checklist. So there's really nothing you can do with them other than just cycle them around and try to give them a storyline at some point. And again, all ages, like I said, it's a lot of fun. There's humor, there's excitement. I've always said my barometer for an all ages show is basically anything in the 80s, but especially I'd say going back so far as classic Star Trek. If you watch classic episode of Star Trek, they got away with a lot, really. I mean, when you think of it, and it was all family friendly. It was nothing too intense, but you had people getting shot, you had people getting stabbed, you had people getting run over by a Horda. I wouldn't say the latter is something that you'll find in Bullets Bourbon, but probably the former. And it wasn't gory and it wasn't grim, But the red shirts, they probably had the highest fatality, right? The highest fatalities of any TV show, probably. There was a red shirt getting killed like probably every commercial break on Star Trek, most of the time. But I'm pretty confident in saying that you're not going to see that high of a fatality rate on Bullets Bourbon's issues. But again, so if you can handle that, that's probably, if your kid can handle that, I'm pretty sure they can handle Bullets Bourbon. And of course, there's some, ladies in sexy attire that was also a staple on Star Trek, and we've kind of covered that pretty much as well. Um, the villains, of course, we've got our own brand of villains, much like the most popular Star Trek episodes had, memorable villains. So I would compare it to that if you were looking at maybe the parameters of what you think all ages is. Maybe some people would say that's teen. I don't know. I prefer to think kids can handle. I think if you're at least 8 years old, you probably won't have a problem with any of these things. I don't think they'll keep you up nights, and have nightmares. All kids are different. I always stress to parents to check out what their kids are reading and stuff before, handing it to them. But again, like I said, I would probably think 7 or 8 years old. By then, at least you're probably going to be all right with this. But you know, some kids it might be 10. I don't know. It would be up to the parent. And again, also one of the most important ingredients that I enjoy about this is not only the 80s action vibe, not only the colorful superhero classic comic stuff, but there's a very strong vein of classic comedy in the Bullets Bourbon universe. It's really based on the comedy of the 30s and 40s. If you liked Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, the Marx Brothers, a little the Three Stooges, Hope and Crosby, all that stuff, that's where my comedy stylings came from. So you're going to find a little bit of that in there. It's, again, it's not going to be jokes like you're going to find on the Big Bang Theory or something of who's sleeping with who and whatever. It's really wholesome stuff that you would find in the 30s and 40s, and that stuff is timeless. Really, anybody that goes back to that and sees that stuff, it's just as funny today as it was back then. I would try to say, I think if I was, I think I've said this before, but I think if you want to compare it to maybe something more present day, I think like Chuck and Psych, it might be in that same kind of vein if you're looking for a modern day comparison of what this storyline, these characters, and what they're kind of like. I think certainly they have some traits like that, that you would find in those shows. Sort of like a tough and humorous. It's like a serious story, but then again, it's humorous enough that you don't take it ultra seriously. You know what I mean? It's not as serious as a broken arm. Let's put it that way. And in this most recent story arc, I've also introduced, like I've said before on Twitter, there is sort of a religious message in this one as well, which again, I don't know if that turns off some readers. It's a very difficult thing to write. I'll tell you that much, because you don't want to be cloyingly sentimental. It's a very personal thing, a person's relationship with God and so forth. And, we are actually going to name Jesus Christ in the comic. So it's, again, it's something that has to be handled very delicately. And I feel like we did. I feel like this story arc, I came into it feeling like I was very concerned if I was going to be able to pull it off. And again, I take no credit. I mean, I feel that the Holy Spirit really led me through this process. It's not really anything that I've done on my own. But I feel that there is sort of a very strong emotional, religious undercurrent in the story. Because basically what's happening to Bullets in the story is that he's having a crisis, a spiritual crisis. And that's the only way that he could kind of come out of it. I don't want to really spoil the whole thing, but I did mention this before, so it's kind of what you'd expect it to be. That if you're going to go through the spiritual crisis, there's only one way to come out the other side. You have to go through your core being, your core beliefs. And again, I don't do this in a very heavy-handed fashion. We talk about it for like a page or two, maybe a page and a half, and that's it. It should be palatable for those who are, not too religiously inclined, so to speak. But again, it's an important thing. I felt it was very important not to, because when you see most, most stories, TV, comics, movies, if they're going to evoke God, so to speak, if they're going to talk about God, they just make some kind of opaque reference to God. They're afraid to say Jesus Christ. They're afraid to show that the hero has a Christian worldview because, heaven forbid, even though there's, probably a couple billion Christians in America alone, heaven forbid we should alienate someone who doesn't believe in God or who believes in a different God or something like that. It really shouldn't be that way because, I mean, even in comics with characters that are having a professing faith, the first one that comes to my mind is like Daredevil as a Catholic. Obviously, I mean, I'm not Catholic. That's not my denomination, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that's Catholic, but I understand the point of view of the character. It doesn't turn me off. It doesn't make me feel like I'm an outsider looking at something. That's the whole thing these days is you have to be able to identify with a character. If you're black, you have to have a black hero. If you're Asian, you have to have an Asian hero. If you're Latino, you have to have a Latino hero, etc. And it's the same thing though with religion. It's like you don't have to necessarily, if you can understand where the character's coming from, that's all that's really required of you. You don't even need to necessarily agree if you don't. But again, of course, that's what I mean. I have tried very diligently not to make this seem preachy because that really wasn't my intention. I think it came about organically, which is the reason why I was excited to include it. Because I think that's the problem with a lot of Christian books and Christian work. Because you always see people mocking and lampooning Christian movies and so forth. It's because they come into the project with, how are we going to evangelize? Now, me as a born again Christian, I think it's important to evangelize, but I am creating entertainment. So when I go into a story, I'm thinking, how is this going to entertain me, let alone the reader? And when there is a window that's open that I say, this is an interesting place to put, a look at my worldview, because obviously my worldview is the same as Bolt's Bourbon. I created him, and I'm going to have the same kind of outlook as he does. And that's where you find the place to place it without feeling like you've built the whole story around it. The incident where he talks about Jesus and faith and forgiveness and all this is brought about because the story demanded it. The story put bullets through the ringer. And now he has got to face his inner turmoil. He doesn't just, there's no setting out and beginning the story and looking for a place to put this. You have to have reached it organically. So if I have any advice to give to any Christian creators out there, that would be the biggest bit of advice, that you don't have to start the story. You can, and it might work for you because it has worked in the past for others. I'm not downplaying that it can't. But rather than try to advertise, oh, this is a Christian story, this is a Christian series, I say this is an action adventure series. This is an exciting series. It's a fun series. It's a funny series. But it's also got the worldview of its creator, which is Christian. So when the time comes that my character has to face something, an internal struggle, a spiritual crisis, internal turmoil, he's going to face it as a born again Christian will. And like I said, I think that's the difference. I think that's how you do compelling Christian entertainment. And it will appeal to everyone, I think, that way. Because you didn't set out trying to do something. You just, let go and let God, so to speak. If it's there, if there's a room for the message, then you place the message there. But you don't go into it looking for a place. Okay, I realize now that I said I was going to wrap it up about 40 minutes ago. I think I said I was going to be wrapping it up in about 10 minutes, and I think another 40 minutes have passed. So once again, before we wrap it up for this lovely Sunday afternoon, and I go and get myself some dinner, hopefully you can too, we will take a look at the cover, The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye, issue number 9. The final story in the Family Jewels arc, in the final hours. We tried to take you through the whole storyline here and tried to give you a little look at the world of Bullets, Bourbon, and a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun writing them. I have a lot of fun showing you guys uh, the individual issues and the panels that I can show you, and hopefully it means as much to some of you out there as it does to me, because it's just a blast, and I love it every day when I work on it. It's a lot of work, but I love it every day, and I just don't intend to ever stop until the good Lord calls my number. But check out The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye if you haven't already. And again, keep an eye on Indie Planet. It should be listed soon. I know sometimes these things seem to take a long time, but if you can't wait, and I hope you can't wait, you can, like I said, get in touch with me. I'll see if I can get you one of my copies that I've got on hand here. I'll get you a autographed copy. I'll try to throw in some goodies, which you won't get with Indie Planet, because I, of course, have magnets and stickers and some other exciting things at the ready with which I can include. $4 is the price for the individual issues. Also lower the prices of the trades. We got 3 trades. I got to update that on the ticker. I don't have it on this ticker, but I got a ticker that updates it. And I've got to update that one. If I remember correctly, I think it's $6 for the first trade, $7 for the second trade, and $8 for the third trade. They're all in various sizes. I think the $8 trade, we marked it down. I think that's 56 pages, something like that. And they decrease as the price goes down to the size of the books. Once you've read all of the Family Jewels arc, that's probably about a good 55 pages or something as well of story. So again, hopefully you will check it out and feel that you've got your money's worth in action, adventure, and excitement. I really enjoyed talking to everyone today about this. We didn't get anybody in the chat who wanted to show up. I didn't think we would, but I'm not against trying this format out again someday. Maybe we'll try it when I'm doing a Torch News Roundup, see if anybody wants to come in. But I still feel it was a very big success, a successful day. So thank you for checking it out. Check out the link in the description below for my website, The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye. You can check out our Twitter page. You can check out the be sure to like, share, and subscribe. No, my attention was diverted by something else over here. It's okay. So check out, and like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you again when we see you again. So until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.